Logan Reed had 30 seconds to decide. Save a stranger's life and lose everything, or let fate take its course and maybe, just maybe, save his daughter's future. He chose wrong. Or maybe he chose right. Either way, the choice shattered his world in ways he couldn't imagine, and rebuilt it into something he never thought possible. If you want to see how one impossible decision on a rain-soaked bridge changed everything, stay until the end. And hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The wipers couldn't keep up. Logan Reed leaned forward in the driver's seat, squinting through the windshield as rain hammered down in sheets so thick the road ahead looked like it was underwater. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The clock on the dashboard read 2:47 p.m. He had 13 minutes to make a 20-minute drive. Come on, he muttered, tapping the wheel like that would somehow move the line of cars ahead. Traffic on the Riverside Bridge had slowed to a crawl, red brake lights bleeding through the downpour. His phone sat in the cup holder, screen dark. He'd already checked it 6 times in the last 10 minutes. No point checking again. Elena Cross didn't seem like the type to reschedule. Logan's jaw tightened. He could still hear the recruiter's voice from yesterday. Ms. Cross doesn't do second interviews. If you're late, don't bother showing up at all. This wasn't just another job. This was the job. Operations Director at Crosstech Industries, one of the fastest-growing logistics companies on the East Coast. $65,000 a year. Benefits. Security. Everything he'd been clawing for since Rachel died. Everything Ava needed. He glanced at the photo taped to his dashboard. A crumpled Polaroid of a 7-year-old girl with dark braids and a gap-toothed smile, holding up a drawing of a house with a lopsided chimney. Our new home, she'd written in purple crayon. Logan swallowed hard. There wasn't going to be a new home if he didn't land this interview. There wasn't going to be any home. The eviction notice was already taped to their apartment door. 3 weeks. That's all they had. The rain pounded harder. Somewhere up ahead, a horn blared. Logan shifted in his seat. His shirt was sticking to his back despite the AC, and his tie felt like a noose. He'd borrowed the suit from his neighbor, Frank, who was 3 inches shorter and 20 pounds heavier. The sleeves were too short, and the pants bunched at his ankles, but it was the best he could do. He hadn't owned a suit since the funeral. Another horn. Then another. Traffic lurched forward a few feet, then stopped again. Logan checked the clock. 2:49. He pressed his palms against his eyes and exhaled slowly. His hands were shaking. Not from nerves. Well, not just from nerves. He hadn't eaten since yesterday. Couldn't afford to. Ava's lunch money had cleaned out what was left in his wallet, and the last $10 in his account was earmarked for gas to get home after this interview. If he made it to the interview. The car in front of him inched forward. Logan followed, his heart hammering against his ribs. He could see the end of the bridge now, maybe 200 yards ahead. If traffic cleared, if he caught the lights right, if he didn't hit construction, a flash of red caught his eye. Not brake lights, something else. Logan leaned closer to the windshield, trying to see through the rain. On the right side of the bridge, maybe 50 feet ahead, a car was pulled halfway onto the shoulder, hazards flashing, driver's door open. And standing outside in the middle of the downpour was a woman. She was young, maybe 30, dressed in a sharp gray blazer and skirt, her dark hair plastered to her face. She had her phone pressed to her ear, pacing back and forth in the rain like she was arguing with someone. Her car, a sleek black Audi, sat crooked on the narrow shoulder, one tire dangerously close to the edge of the bridge. Logan frowned. She looked out of place. Not stranded motorist out of place, but why the hell are you standing in a storm out of place? He was about to look away when he saw it. A semi-truck, 2 lanes over, hauling a flatbed stacked with steel beams. It was going too fast for the conditions, weaving slightly as the driver tried to navigate the slick road, and it was losing control. Logan's stomach dropped. The truck's rear end fishtailed, sliding wide as the driver overcorrected. The whole rig started to jackknife, metal shrieking as the trailer swung out toward the shoulder, toward the woman. She didn't see it. She was still on her phone, her back to the truck, completely unaware. Logan's brain screamed at him, "Not your problem. You're late. You can't afford this." But his hands were already moving. He yanked the wheel hard to the right, cutting across the lane. Horns blared behind him as he veered onto the shoulder, tires skidding on the wet pavement. He slammed the brakes, threw the car into park, and kicked the door open. The rain hit him like a wall. "Hey!" he shouted. stumbling out into the storm. His dress shoes slipped on the slick asphalt, and he barely caught himself on the hood of his car. "Lady, move!" She turned, confused, lowering her phone. The truck was 30 feet away. 20. Logan didn't think. He just ran. His shoes slapped against the wet road, his tie whipping over his shoulder. The woman's eyes went wide as she finally saw the truck, but she froze, her body locked in place. 10 feet. Logan hit her at full speed, wrapping both arms around her waist and driving her backward off the shoulder. They crashed onto this concrete walkway just as the truck's trailer clipped the Audi's bumper with a deafening crunch. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. The car spun like a toy, slamming into the guardrail before flipping over the side of the bridge. Logan didn't see it. He was too busy trying to breathe. He'd landed hard on his shoulder, the woman's weight on top of him. Pain shot down his arm, sharp and hot. His vision blurred for a second, rain streaming into his eyes. Are you okay?" The woman's voice was shaky, breathless. She pushed herself up, her hands braced on his chest. Logan groaned and rolled onto his side, clutching his shoulder. "Yeah, fine. You?" She didn't answer right away. She was staring at the guardrail, at the empty space where her car had been. Her face had gone pale. "That was my car," she said quietly. "Yeah." Logan coughed, wincing. "Sorry about that." She turned to look at him, her expression unreadable. "You just—" She stopped, shaking her head. "You saved my life." Logan sat up slowly, testing his shoulder. It hurt like hell, but nothing felt broken. Wasn't thinking, just reacted. Behind them, the semi-truck had finally stopped, the driver climbing out and shouting something Logan couldn't hear over the rain. Other cars were pulling over now, people getting out to see what happened. The woman was still staring at him. "What's your name?" Logan wiped the rain from his face and let out a bitter laugh. "Doesn't matter." "It matters to me." He looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time. She was younger than he'd thought, maybe late 20s, with sharp features and dark eyes that seemed to cut through the rain. Even soaked and shaken, she carried herself like someone used to being in control. "Logan?" he said finally. "Logan Reed." She nodded slowly, like she was filing the name away. Then she glanced at his borrowed suit, his too short sleeves, the tie hanging crooked around his neck. "You were going somewhere," she said. It wasn't a question. Logan's chest tightened. He pulled out his phone. The screen was cracked. Must have happened in the fall, but it still worked. 2:54 p.m. He'd missed it. "Yeah," he said quietly, staring at the time. "I was." "Where?" "Doesn't matter now." He shoved the phone back in his pocket and stood, biting back a groan as his shoulder protested. "I'm late, which means I'm done." The woman frowned. "Late for what?" Logan didn't answer. He turned and started walking back toward his car, his shoes squelching with every step. The adrenaline was wearing off now, and reality was setting in like a fist to the gut. He'd just thrown away his daughter's future to save a stranger. "Wait." Logan stopped but didn't turn around. "Where were you going?" the woman asked again, her voice sharper this time. The woman. He let out a slow breath. "Job interview. Crosstech Industries. I was supposed to meet the CEO at 3. He glanced over his shoulder. "But that's not happening now." The woman's expression shifted. Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. "Crosstech Industries," she repeated. "Yeah." She tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. Then, slowly, she smiled. "What if I told you," she said, "that you just made it?" Logan turned fully now, his brow furrowing. "What?" The woman stepped forward, extending her hand. "Elena Cross, CEO of Crosstech Industries." Logan's brain stuttered to a halt. He stared at her hand, at the rain still pouring down around them. "You're—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "The person you were supposed to meet," Elena said, "and you're late. But under the circumstances, I think we can make an exception." Logan just stood there, his mouth half open, trying to process what was happening. Elena raised an eyebrow. "Are you going to shake my hand, Mr. Reed, or are we doing this in the rain?" 10 minutes later, Logan was sitting in the back of an ambulance with a blanket around his shoulders and an EMT shining a light in his eyes. "You're lucky," the EMT said, clicking off the pen light. "No concussion. Shoulders probably just bruised. You'll be sore for a few days, but nothing serious." "Great," Logan muttered. He didn't feel lucky. Elena was standing a few feet away, talking on someone else's phone. Hers had been in the Audi when it went over the side. She looked composed now, like she hadn't just watched her car plummet off a bridge. Every few seconds, she glanced over at Logan, her expression thoughtful. When she finished the call, she walked over and handed the phone back to a police officer. Then she turned to Logan. "How's the shoulder?" "Fine, Logan. Logan said, "How's the car?" Elena's mouth twitched. Totaled but insured, unlike some people's interview schedules. Logan let out a humorless laugh. "Yeah, well, I'm great at timing." Elena crossed her arms, studying him. "You didn't hesitate." "What?" "When you saw the truck, you didn't think. You just moved." She paused. "Why?" Logan frowned. "Does it matter?" "It does to me." He looked down at his hands. They were scraped and raw, his knuckles already starting to bruise. "I don't know. I saw you standing there, and I thought—" He stopped, shaking his head. "I wasn't thinking. That's the problem." "No," Elena said quietly. "That's exactly the point." Logan looked up at her, confused. She was quiet for a moment, then, "I've been running Crosstech for 3 years. In that time, I've interviewed hundreds of people. CFOs, directors, consultants, people with perfect resumes and perfect answers. And you know what I've learned?" Logan didn't respond. "Most people spend their whole lives thinking," Elena said, "calculating risk, weighing outcomes, playing it safe." She paused. "But the ones who actually do something? The ones who move when it matters? They're rare." Why? Logan didn't know what to say to that. Elena pulled out a business card, someone else's, since hers were also at the bottom of the river, and scribbled a number on the back. She handed it to him. "My assistant's number? Call her tomorrow morning. We'll set up a time to finish this interview." Logan stared at the card. "You're serious?" "Do I look like I'm joking? You almost died. And you stopped it from happening." Elena tilted her head. "So now I owe you an interview. Maybe more, depending on how you do." Logan's throat tightened. He wanted to say something, "Thank you, maybe, or you don't owe me anything," but the words wouldn't come. Elena smiled faintly. "Get some rest, Mr. Reed. And for the record?" She glanced at his borrowed suit, his cracked phone, his scuffed shoes. "You don't need to dress up next time. I've already seen what you're made of." Logan didn't remember the drive home. One minute he was standing on the bridge, watching Elena climb into a black SUV that had pulled up to collect her. The next, he was parking outside his apartment complex, his hands still shaking on the wheel. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray and heavy. Logan sat in the car for a long moment, staring at the eviction notice taped to his front door. 3 weeks. He got out slowly, his shoulder aching with every movement. The hallway smelled like mildew and old carpet. Mrs. Chen from 3B was cooking something with too much garlic. A dog barked somewhere upstairs. Home. Logan unlocked the door and stepped inside. Ava was sitting on the couch, a coloring book spread across her lap. She looked up when he walked in, her eyes going wide. "Daddy!" She scrambled off the couch and ran to him, stopping short when she saw his suit. "You're all wet." "Yeah." Logan tried to smile. "Got caught in the rain." "Did you get the job?" Logan hesitated. "I don't know yet, sweetheart. Maybe." Ava frowned. "You said you'd get it. You promised." "I know." Logan knelt down, ignoring the protest from his shoulder, and pulled her into a hug. "But sometimes things don't go the way we plan." Ava hugged him back, her small arms tight around his neck. "It's okay, Daddy. You tried." Logan closed his eyes and held her closer. She didn't know. She didn't know about the eviction notice, or the overdue bills, or the fact that they were 3 weeks away from having nowhere to go. She didn't know that her father had just gambled everything on a stranger's life. And she didn't need to. "Hey," Logan said, pulling back. "What do you say we make spaghetti tonight?" Ava's face lit up. "With the sauce from the jar? The fancy kind." She grinned and ran back to the couch to grab her coloring book. Logan stood slowly, his body screaming in protest. He walked to the kitchen and opened the cupboard. 1 box of spaghetti. 1 jar of sauce. That was it. He set them on the counter and stared at them for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, the cracked screen flickering to life. Elena's assistant's number was still on the business card in his pocket. Logan didn't call, not yet. Instead, he set the phone down and turned on the stove. For tonight, this was enough. The next morning, Logan woke up to sunlight streaming through the blinds and his shoulder on fire. He groaned and rolled over, squinting at the clock. 7:15 a.m. Ava was already up, eating cereal at the kitchen table in her school uniform. She looked over when she heard him moving. "You okay, Daddy?" "Yeah, Logan lied, sitting up slowly, just a little sore. He shuffled to the bathroom and stared at himself in the mirror. There was a bruise blooming across his shoulder, dark purple and ugly. His face looked hollow, the lines around his eyes deeper than they should have been for 32. He splashed cold water on his face and tried not to think about the fact that he'd used the last of the coffee yesterday. When he came out, Ava was already putting her bowl in the sink. "I'm going to miss the bus," she said, slinging her backpack over her shoulder. Logan grabbed his keys. "I'll drive you." "You sure?" "Yeah." He ruffled her hair. "Bus, come on." The drive to Ava's school was quiet. She stared out the window, humming some song Logan didn't recognize. He kept his eyes on the road, trying not to think about how much gas this was costing him. When they pulled up to the curb, Ava unbuckled her seatbelt and leaned over to hug him. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, sweetheart." She hopped out and ran toward the building, her backpack bouncing. Logan watched until she disappeared inside. Then he pulled out the business card and stared at the number. His hands were shaking again. He didn't know why. This was what he wanted, what he needed, a second chance. But something about yesterday, about the way Elena had looked at him, the way she'd said you didn't hesitate, made him feel like he was stepping into something bigger than a job interview. Logan took a breath and dialed. The phone rang twice before someone picked up. "Crosstech Industries, Elena Cross's office. This is Diane." Logan cleared his throat. "Hi, my name is Logan Reed. Miss Cross told me to call." There was a pause. Then, "Oh, Mr. Reed. Yes, she mentioned you. Hold on one moment." The line clicked and soft hold music started playing. Logan's heart was hammering. A minute later, the music cut off, and a familiar voice came through the line. "Mr. Reed?" Logan sat up straighter. "Miss Cross, whoa. I was wondering if you'd call." There was a faint smile in her voice. "How's the shoulder?" "Fine. Sore, but fine." "Good, because I have a proposal for you." Logan frowned. "A proposal?" "I've been thinking about yesterday, about what you did, and I realized something." Elena paused. "I don't need to interview you in an office. I need to see what you can do in the field." "The field?" "We have a facility in Creston, about an hour north of the city. It's been underperforming for the last 6 months. Morale's low, turnover's high, and the numbers don't add up. I've sent 3 consultants to figure out what's wrong, and none of them have come back with anything useful." Logan's stomach tightened. "And you want me to go there, today? Spend a week on site. Figure out what's broken and how to fix it." Elena's tone was calm, measured. "If you can turn that place around, the job is yours." Logan's mouth went dry. "That's not an interview. That's a test. Call it what you want. I call it an opportunity. And if I can't fix it, then you walk away with nothing." Elena paused. "But I don't think that's going to happen." Logan didn't respond. His mind was racing. A week in Creston, away from Ava. He couldn't afford that. He couldn't afford any of this. But he also couldn't afford to say no. "I'll need to make arrangements," Logan said slowly. "For my daughter." "Done. I'll have my assistant set up temporary housing and cover your expenses while you're there. And if you need childcare, we can arrange that too." Logan blinked. "You'd do that?" "Mr. Reed," Elena said, "yesterday you risked your life for a stranger. The least I can do is make sure your daughter is taken care of while you're working." Logan didn't know what to say. So, Elena said, "Are you in?" Logan stared out the windshield at the empty street, at the gray sky, at the cracked dashboard and the photo of Ava's drawing taped to it, our new home. He closed his eyes. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm in." "Good. My assistant will send you the details within the hour. And Mr. Reed?" "Yeah?" "Don't overthink this. Just do what you did yesterday." The line went dead. Logan sat there for a long moment, the phone still pressed to his ear. Then he set it down, started the car, and drove home. He had packing to do. The drive to Creston took longer than an hour. Logan's car started making a noise around mile 40, a rattling sound from somewhere under the hood that he couldn't afford to think about. He turned up the radio to drown it out and kept his eyes on the highway. Ava had cried when he told her he'd be gone for a week. Not the loud, dramatic kind of crying. She was too old for that now. Just quiet tears that she tried to hide by turning away. Logan had knelt down and promised her it would be okay, that Mrs. Martinez from downstairs would check on her every day, that he'd call her every night before bed. "It's for us," he'd said, holding her small hands in his. "I'm doing this for us." She'd nodded, but she didn't look at him. That image, her small back turned toward him, shoulders shaking, sat in Logan's chest like a stone the entire drive north. The landscape changed as he got closer to Creston. The city sprawl gave way to industrial zones, then long stretches of empty road lined with rusted chain-link fences and warehouses that looked like they'd been abandoned decades ago. The sky was gray again, threatening rain. Logan's phone buzzed in the cup holder. A text from Diane, Elena's assistant. Facility address, 1847 Industrial Parkway. Ask for Bill Hendricks, site manager. He's expecting you. Logan typed back a quick thanks and kept driving. When he finally pulled off the highway, following the GPS down a narrow access road, the Crosstech facility came into view. It looked worse than he'd imagined. The building was a massive concrete box, 3 stories tall and maybe 2 football fields long. The parking lot was half empty, dotted with potholes and weeds growing through the cracks. A few trucks sat idle near the loading docks, their trailers closed up tight. The sign out front, Crosstech Distribution Center, Creston, was faded and missing letters. It read, "Cross H10 Ibu Ion Se Ter now." Logan parked near the entrance and sat there for a moment, staring at the building. This was the job. This was what Elena wanted him to fix. He let out a slow breath, grabbed his duffel bag from the back seat, and stepped out into the cold. The front doors were glass, smudged with fingerprints and grime. Logan pushed through into a small reception area that smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet. A woman in her 50s sat behind a desk, typing slowly on a computer that looked older than Ava. She glanced up when Logan walked in. "Help you?" "I'm looking for Bill Hendricks." The woman's expression didn't change. "You the guy from corporate?" Logan hesitated. "I'm Logan Reed. Ms. Cross sent me." The woman's eyes narrowed slightly. Then she picked up a phone on her desk and punched a button. "Bill, your corporate guy's here." A pause. "Yeah, front desk." She hung up and went back to typing without another word. "Dumnai." She hung up. Logan stood there awkwardly, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. The reception area was dead quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. There were a few chairs lined up against the wall, their upholstery torn and leaking foam. A bulletin board near the door was covered in OSHA notices and a faded flyer for a company picnic from 2 years ago. A door on the far side of the room opened, and a man walked out. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with a thick build that had gone soft around the middle. His hair was gray and thinning, combed over in a way that didn't quite work. He wore a polo shirt with the Crosstech logo and khakis that were too tight. When he saw Logan, his expression didn't shift into anything resembling a smile. "You Reed?" he asked. Logan nodded. "That's me." "Bah." The man looked him up and down, taking in Logan's jeans, his scuffed boots, the duffel bag slung over his shoulder. "Bill Hendricks, site manager." He didn't offer his hand. Logan didn't push it. "Nice to meet you," Bill grunted. "Follow me." He turned and walked back through the door without waiting to see if Logan followed. Logan glanced at the receptionist, but she was already ignoring him again. He sighed and went after Bill. The hallway beyond the reception area was narrow and lit by the same flickering fluorescent lights. The walls were painted a dingy beige, scuffed and dented in places. Somewhere deeper in the building, Logan could hear the faint hum of machinery and the occasional shout. Bill walked fast, his hands shoved into his pockets. He didn't say anything for a long stretch, just led Logan down one hallway, then another, then up a flight of metal stairs that clanged with every step. Finally, he stopped in front of a door marked Site Manager and pushed it open. The office was small and cluttered. There was a desk buried under stacks of paperwork, a filing cabinet with one drawer hanging open, and a single window that looked out over the warehouse floor. The air smelled like stale cigarettes. Bill walked around the desk and dropped into his chair. He didn't invite Logan to sit. "So," Bill said, leaning back, "you're here to fix things." Logan set his bag down. "That's the idea." Bill laughed, a short, humorless sound. "Good luck with that." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," Bill said, "that corporate's been sending people up here for months and nothing's changed. You think you're going to be different?" Logan met his eyes. "I don't know yet." Bill stared at him for a moment, then shook his head. "You got a lot to learn, kid." "I'm 32. Like I said." Bill pulled a file folder from one of the stacks and tossed it across the desk. "That's everything you need. Staffing reports, shipment logs, performance metrics. It's all there. Take a look. Ask your questions. Write your little report. But don't expect anyone here to care." Logan picked up the folder, but didn't open it. "Why not?" "Because we've heard it all before. We're here to help. We're here to make things better." And then nothing changes. Bill leaned forward, his elbows on the desk. "You want my advice? Do your week. Tell Miss Cross whatever she wants to hear and go home. Don't waste your time trying to save this place." Logan's jaw tightened. "And if I don't take your advice?" Bill shrugged. "Then you're dumber than you look." They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Logan nodded. "Got it. Anything else?" "Yeah." Bill stood and walked to the door, holding it open. "Stay out of my way." Logan picked up his bag and walked out without another word.
Das ist, da ist's, es Sack.
The warehouse floor was chaos. Logan stood on the metal catwalk overlooking the operation, watching workers move between shelves stacked 20 feet high with boxes and crates. Forklifts rumbled back and forth, their backup alarms blaring. A conveyor belt near the loading dock stuttered and stopped every few minutes, and each time it did, someone had to run over and kick it to get it moving again. It was loud. It was messy. And it was obvious that nobody was in charge. Logan watched a forklift nearly clip a worker carrying a pallet. The worker shouted something, Logan couldn't hear what, and the forklift driver shouted back. Neither of them stopped moving. He descended the stairs and stepped onto the floor. The noise hit him like a physical thing, the clang of metal, the hiss of hydraulics, the constant beeping of machines. The air smelled like diesel and sweat. Logan walked toward the conveyor belt, which had stopped again. A guy in a grease-stained shirt was crouched next to it, cursing under his breath as he pried open a panel. "Need a hand?" Logan asked. The guy looked up, startled. "Who the hell are you?" "Logan Reed. I'm here from corporate. Yeah, I heard." The guy turned back to the panel. "We don't need help. We need a new belt." How long's this one been broken?" "Broken? It's not broken. It's just old. And cheap. And nobody upstairs gives a damn." Logan crouched down next to him. "What's your name?" The guy glanced at him, suspicious. "Marcus." "How long have you worked here, Marcus?" 8 years. "And the belt's been like this the whole time?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "Nah, it used to work. But we've been running understaffed for 2 years now, and nobody's got time to fix anything properly. So we just patch it up and keep going." Logan nodded slowly. "What would it take to fix it? For real?" Marcus sat back on his heels, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Money and time, and somebody who actually cares." Before Logan could respond, a shout cut through the noise. "Marcus, get that belt running or we're behind schedule." Logan looked up. A woman was striding toward them, mid-40s, sharp-eyed, wearing a cross-tech vest over a flannel shirt. She had a clipboard in one hand and a radio in the other. Marcus stood quickly. "I'm working on it, Karen." Karen stopped a few feet away, her eyes flicking to Logan. "And who are you?" "Logan Reed." Her expression didn't change. "The corporate guy." "That's me?" She looked him up and down, then turned back to Marcus. Get it running, now. Marcus muttered something under his breath and went back to the panel. Karen turned to Logan.
You want a tour, or are you just here to watch us struggle? Logan stood. I'd take a tour. Fine, keep up.
She walked off without waiting, and Logan had to jog to catch up. Karen moved through the warehouse like she owned it, pointing out sections as they went. This is receiving. That's sorting. Those shelves are outbound freight, and over there, she gestured toward a corner where several workers were sitting on crates, smoking. That's where people go to waste time. How many people work here, so? Logan asked. Supposed to be 80. We're running with 53. Why? Karen shot him a look. Because corporate cut the budget and nobody wants to work for $10 an hour in a place that's falling apart. What about raises, promotions? Haven't seen a raise in 3 years, and the only people who get promoted are the ones who know how to kiss Bill's ass. Logan frowned. You don't like Bill. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Karen stopped walking and turned to face him. Look, I don't know what you're here to do, and I don't really care. But if you're expecting me to pretend everything's fine, you're wasting your time. I'm not, Logan said. I'm here to figure out what's wrong. What's wrong, Karen said, is that nobody upstairs listens. We tell them the equipment's failing. We tell them we're understaffed. We tell them morale's in the toilet. And they send consultants who take notes and disappear. She crossed her arms. So forgive me if I don't roll out the red carpet. Logan held her gaze. I'm not a consultant. Then what are you? I don't know yet, Logan admitted. But I'm not leaving until I figure it out, May. Karen studied him for a long moment. Then she sighed. Come on, I'll show you the break room. It's the least depressing part of this place. The break room was worse than the warehouse floor. It was a small, windowless space with a flickering overhead light and a vending machine that had an out-of-order sign taped to it. There were a few tables, most of them scratched and stained, and a coffee maker that looked like it hadn't been cleaned in months. 3 workers sat at one of the tables, playing cards. They looked up when Logan and Karen walked in, their expressions guarded. This is Logan Reed, Karen said. He's from corporate. One of the guys, a younger man with a buzz cut and a tattoo snaking up his forearm, snorted. Great. Another suit. I'm not wearing a suit, Logan pointed out. You know what I mean. Logan walked over to the table. What's your name? The guy looked at him warily. Travis. How long you been here, Travis? 2 years. You like it? Travis laughed. Do I look like I like it? One of the other guys at the table, older, with graying hair and a tired face, spoke up. Kid's just bitter because he got passed over for lead. I got passed over, Travis shot back, because Bill's nephew got the job instead, even though I've been here longer and actually know what I'm doing. Logan's eyebrows went up. Bill's nephew works here? Yeah, Karen said from behind him. Danny Hendricks got promoted to shift lead 6 months ago. Is he good at his job? Well, the 3 guys at this table exchanged looks. Then Travis shrugged. He shows up, sometimes. Logan filed that away. What about you? He asked the older guy. What's your name? Paul. How long you been here? 12 years. And what's the biggest problem on the floor? Nah. Paul didn't hesitate. Communication. Nobody knows what's going on. We get orders last minute, shipments show up that aren't on the schedule, and half the time the inventory system's wrong, so we're just making it up as we go. And nobody's tried to fix that? We've tried, Paul said, but every time we bring it up, we get told to work faster and stop complaining. Logan nodded slowly. Got it. He turned to Karen. I want to see the inventory system. She sighed. Of course you do. That's... Man. The inventory system was a disaster. Logan sat in a cramped office on the second floor, staring at a computer screen that looked like it was running software from 1998. The interface was clunky, the database sluggish, and the numbers didn't line up. This says you have 200 units of item 4721 in stock, Logan said, pointing at the screen. Karen leaned over his shoulder. We don't. How many do you have? Maybe 50, if that. Logan scrolled down. And this one? Also wrong. Eat. How is any of this accurate? It's not, Karen said flatly. The system's been broken for years. We just keep a manual count on paper and hope for the best. Logan rubbed his face. You're telling me that every shipment, every order, every piece of inventory is being tracked by hand? Pretty much. That's insane. Tell me about it. What? Logan leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen. His mind was racing. This wasn't just underperformance. This was systematic failure. And the more he dug, the clearer it became that it wasn't accidental. Who manages the inventory updates? He asked. Karen hesitated. Danny, Bill's nephew. Yeah. Logan's jaw tightened. And how often does he update the system? Supposed to be daily, but Karen trailed off. But he doesn't. Half the time, the numbers sit for weeks before anyone touches them. Logan stood. I need to talk to Danny. Good luck, Karen muttered. He's probably out back smoking. Danny Hendricks was exactly where Karen said he'd be, leaning against the side of the building with a cigarette in one hand and his phone in the other. He was younger than Logan expected, maybe 25, with slicked back hair and a smirk that made Logan's fists clench. Danny Hendricks? Logan asked, walking over. Danny looked up, blowing smoke. Yeah, who's asking?
Logan Reed. I'm here from corporate. Yeah, I know. Danny took another drag. What do you want? Yeah. I want to talk about the inventory system. Danny's smirk widened. What about it?
It's broken. Not my fault. You're the one who's supposed to update it. Danny shrugged.
I do what I can. System's old. It's not my problem. Logan stepped closer. When's the last time you updated it? I don't know. Last week? 2 weeks ago? Danny flicked ash onto the pavement. Look, man, I got a lot on my plate. Inventory's not the only thing I do. What else do you do?
Danny's smirk faltered. What's that supposed to mean? It means, Logan said evenly, that people on the floor are busting their asses while you're out here smoking. So I'm wondering what exactly it is you're doing that's so important. Danny's face darkened. You don't know what you're talking about. Then explain it to me. I don't have to explain anything to you. Danny tossed his cigarette onto the ground and stepped toward Logan. You're nobody. Just another corporate drone who's going to be gone in a week. So why don't you run along and let the people who actually work here do their jobs? Logan didn't move. I'm not going anywhere. Danny stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed and shook his head. Whatever, man. Good luck. He walked past Logan and disappeared back into the building. Logan stood there, his heart pounding. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Elena picked up on the second ring. Mr. Reed, how's Creston? It's worse than you said. I figured it might be. There was a pause. What did you find? The equipment's failing, the staff's demoralized, and the inventory system's been sabotaged. Elena's tone sharpened. Sabotaged? It's not being updated, on purpose. And the guy responsible is the site manager's nephew, Bill Hendricks. Yeah, Elena was quiet for a moment. Then, can you prove it? Logan hesitated. Not yet, but I will. Good. Because if you're right, this is bigger than a failing facility. This is fraud. Logan's stomach tightened. What do you want me to do? What I sent you there to do, Elena said. Fix it. The line went dead. Logan stared at his phone. Then he turned and walked back into the building. He had work to do. Logan spent the rest of that first day buried in paperwork. He'd commandeered an empty office on the second floor, little more than a closet with a desk and a chair that squeaked every time he moved, and spread out everything Bill had given him. Staffing reports, shipment logs, performance metrics. All of it painted the same picture, a facility circling the drain. But the numbers didn't tell the whole story. They never did. Logan rubbed his eyes and checked his phone. 9:47 p.m. He'd promised to call Ava before bed, and he was cutting it close. He dialed. She picked up on the third ring. Daddy? Hey, sweetheart. You okay? Yeah, Mrs. Martinez made me dinner. We had chicken nuggets. Logan smiled despite himself. That sounds good. They weren't as good as yours. There was a pause. When are you coming home? Logan's chest tightened. A few more days. I'm working on something important. Is it the job? Yeah, it's the job. Are you going to get it? Logan looked at the stacks of paper covering the desk, at the notes he'd scrawled in the margins. I don't know yet, but I'm trying. Okay. Ava's voice was small. I miss you. I miss you too, baby, so much. Logan swallowed hard. But I'll be home soon, okay? And we're going to be fine. Promise? Huh? Promise. They talked for a few more minutes about school, about Mrs. Martinez's cat, about nothing important, and then Ava yawned and said she had to go to bed. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Ava. More than anything. The line went quiet. Logan set the phone down and stared at the wall. He couldn't fail. Not this time. Ichakan. The next morning, Logan was back on the warehouse floor before sunrise. The building was quieter at this hour, the machinery not yet fired up, the workers trickling in slowly. Logan walked the aisles, taking notes, watching the way people moved, the way they interacted. Or didn't. It was the small things that caught his attention. The way workers avoided eye contact with supervisors. The way they clustered in groups during breaks, talking in low voices that cut off the moment someone in a Crosstech vest walked by. The way tools and equipment sat broken in corners, ignored. Nobody trusted anybody, and everyone was just trying to survive. Logan was crouched next to a forklift with a flat tire when someone cleared their throat behind him. He turned. It was Paul, the older guy from the break room. You're here early, Paul said. Logan stood, wiping his hands on his jeans. Couldn't sleep. Paul nodded like he understood. You got a minute? Yeah, what's up? Paul glanced around, then jerked his head toward the loading dock. Come with me. They walked outside into the cold morning air. The sky was overcast, threatening rain again. Paul pulled out a pack of cigarettes and offered one to Logan. I don't smoke, Logan said. Good for you. Paul lit one for himself and took a long drag. Look, I don't know what you're trying to do here, but you should know something. Okay. This place didn't used to be like this, Paul said. When I started 12 years ago, it was solid. We hit our numbers. People were happy. There was pride in the work, you know? Logan nodded. What changed? Management. Paul exhaled smoke. About 3 years ago, corporate started cutting budgets. Bill got promoted to site manager and things went downhill fast. Equipment started breaking, pay freezes, layoffs. And Bill stopped caring about anything except covering his own ass. And his nephew? Paul's mouth twisted. Danny's just a symptom. The real problem's bigger. How big? Paul hesitated. Then he looked Logan in the eye. You know how the inventory system's always wrong? Yeah, it's not just incompetence. Somebody's cooking the books. Logan's pulse quickened. You're sure? I'm not an accountant, but I've been here long enough to know when numbers don't add up. Shipments go out that aren't logged. Orders come in that vanish. And every time someone asks questions, they get shut down or fired. Who's behind it? Paul shrugged. I don't know. But it's not just Danny. He's too dumb to pull this off on his own. Yes, Logan's mind was racing. Why are you telling me this? Because most of the people they send from corporate don't care. They take their notes and leave, and nothing changes. Paul flicked ash onto the pavement. But you're different. I can see it. You actually give a damn. Logan didn't know what to say to that. Paul dropped his cigarette and crushed it under his boot. Just watch your back. If you start digging, somebody's going to notice. Logan spent the next 2 days doing exactly that, digging. He pulled shipping manifests and cross-referenced them with the inventory logs. He talked to workers on every shift, asking questions, listening. He stayed late into the night, combing through files that should have been audited years ago, and the more he found, the worse it got. There were discrepancies everywhere. Pallets that shipped out but were never recorded. Inventory that appeared in the system but didn't exist on the floor. Invoices for equipment that was never delivered. It wasn't just mismanagement. Paul was right. Someone was stealing. The question was who, and how deep it went. On the third night, Logan was alone in his borrowed office when the door opened. Karen stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You're still here."
Logan looked up from the pile of invoices spread across his desk. "Yeah, you too." I was about to head out. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. "What are you working on?" Logan hesitated, then he gestured at the desk, trying to figure out where the money's going. Karen's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "You think someone's skimming?" "I don't think. I know." She was quiet for a moment, then she walked over and sat down in the chair across from him. "How much?" "Hard to say, but over the last 2 years, probably close to $500,000. Karen let out a low whistle. "That's a hell of a number." "Yeah." "You got proof?" "Some. Not enough." Logan leaned back in his chair. "The records are a mess. Whoever's doing this knows how to cover their tracks." Karen studied him. "You really think you can fix this?" "I have to." "Why?" Logan met her eyes. "Because if I don't, I lose everything." Karen nodded slowly. "You got kids?" "A daughter, 7 years old." "She's lucky to have you." Logan laughed bitterly. "I don't know about that." "I do." Karen stood. "Look, if you need help, let me know. I've been here long enough to know where the bodies are buried." "Why would you help me?" "Because I'm tired of watching this place fall apart." She walked to the door, then paused. "And because you're the first person from corporate who's actually tried." She left before Logan could respond. The next morning, Logan called a meeting. He didn't clear it with Bill. He just sent out a message to every worker on the day shift. Mandatory all hands at 10 a.m. in the warehouse. When he walked onto the floor at 9:55, the place was packed. Workers stood in clusters, talking in low voices, shooting suspicious looks his way. Bill was there too, standing off to the side with his arms crossed and a scowl on his face. Logan climbed onto a stack of pallets so everyone could see him. The room fell quiet. "Thanks for coming," Logan said. "I know you're busy, so I'll keep this short." Someone in the back muttered something. A few people laughed. Logan ignored it. "I've been here 4 days now, and I've spent most of that time listening. To you. To the problems you're dealing with. To the things nobody upstairs seems to care about." The room stayed quiet, but people were watching him now. Really watching. "Here's what I've learned," Logan continued. "This facility is failing, not because the people here aren't good at their jobs. You are. But because the systems are broken. The equipment's falling apart, the inventory's a mess, and nobody's been held accountable." Bill shifted, his jaw tight. "But here's the thing," Logan said. "I'm not here to write a report and leave. I'm here to fix it, and I can't do that without your help." Travis, the guy from the break room, spoke up. "Why should we believe you?" "You shouldn't," Logan said bluntly. "You don't know me, and you've heard all this before, but I'm asking you to give me a chance. Work with me. Show me what's broken. And if I can't fix it, you can say I told you so and go back to ignoring corporate." There was a long silence. Then Marcus, the guy who'd been fixing the conveyor belt, stepped forward. "What do you want us to do?" Logan looked at him. "I want you to stop covering for the people who don't do their jobs. I want you to tell me the truth, even if it's ugly, and I want you to trust that I'm going to do something about it." Marcus glanced around at the other workers. Then he nodded. "Okay, I'm in." One by one, others started nodding too. Bill pushed off the wall and stalked over. "You done grandstanding?" Logan looked down at him. "Not yet." This is my facility," Bill said, his voice rising. "You don't get to call meetings without my approval." "I just did." Bill's face went red. "You're out of line, Reed." "Maybe, but I'm also right." Logan jumped down from the pallets and stood face to face with Bill. "And if you want to stop me, you're going to have to call Elena Cross and explain why." Bill's mouth worked, but no sound came out. Logan turned back to the workers. "Shift starts in 5. Let's get to work." The crowd started to disperse, people heading back to their stations. Bill stood there for a moment longer, glaring at Logan. Then he turned and stormed off. Karen walked over, shaking her head. You just made an enemy. Good, Logan said. Let him come. He is psyched. By that afternoon, things started to change. Workers who'd been avoiding Logan all week suddenly started talking. They pointed out equipment that had been broken for months. They showed him shortcuts that supervisors had implemented to make the numbers look better on paper, but made the actual work harder. They told him about shipments that didn't make sense, about orders that disappeared, about the foreman who showed up drunk twice a week, and nobody said anything because he was Bill's buddy. Logan took notes on everything. He also started making changes, small ones at first. He ordered parts for the conveyor belt and had Marcus install them that same day. He reassigned a crew to clear out a storage area that had been blocked for so long, people forgot what was back there. He found 3 unused computers in a supply closet and set them up so workers could check inventory without waiting in line. It wasn't much, but it was something, and people noticed. On the 5th day, Logan was in the inventory office, digging through another stack of invoices, when Danny walked in. "You've been busy," Danny said, leaning against the doorframe. Logan didn't look up. "That's kind of the point." "Yeah, well, you're pissing people off." "Good." Danny laughed. "You think you're tough, don't you?" Logan set down the invoice he was reading and looked at Danny. "I think I'm doing my job." Your job," Danny said, "is to come in here, write a report, and leave, not to play hero." "I'm not playing anything." Danny pushed off the doorframe and stepped closer. "Let me give you some advice, man. You're messing with things you don't understand, and if you keep pushing, you're going to get hurt." Logan stood. "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning." Danny smiled, but there was nothing friendly about it. "You should take it." He turned and walked out. Logan stared after him, his hands clenched into fists. Then he pulled out his phone and called Elena. She answered on the first ring. "Mr. Reed, I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Pull the financials for this facility. Every transaction for the last 3 years. And don't tell anyone you're doing it." There was a pause. "You found something?" "Yeah, but I need proof before I move." "How much time do you need?" 2 days? Maybe less? "You'll have it by tomorrow morning," Elena said. "And Logan?" "Yeah?" "Be careful." The line went dead. That night, Logan stayed late again. He was alone in the office, the building dark and quiet around him, when he heard footsteps in the hallway. He looked up. The door was closed, but through the frosted glass, he could see a shadow. Someone was standing outside. Logan's heart started to pound. The footsteps moved away, slow and deliberate. Logan waited until he couldn't hear them anymore. Then he stood, walked to the door, and opened it. The hallway was empty, but on the floor just outside the door was a piece of paper. Logan picked it up. It was a printed screenshot of a bank statement, not a Crosstech account, a personal one. And the deposits didn't match any salary Logan had ever seen. At the bottom, someone had written in pen, "Follow the money." Logan stared at the paper, his mind racing. Someone was helping him. He just didn't know who. The financials arrived the next morning. Elena's assistant sent them in an encrypted email with a note. "Miss Cross says to call her when you're done." Logan opened the files and started reading. It took him 3 hours to piece it together. The money was moving through a shell company, a fake vendor that billed Crosstech for equipment and services that were never delivered. The payments went into an account under the company's name, then got transferred out in smaller amounts to personal accounts. And the name on those accounts? Bill Hendricks. Logan sat back, his stomach churning. It wasn't just Danny, it was Bill. The site manager had been skimming money for years, using his nephew to cover the trail. Logan picked up his phone and called Elena. "I have it," he said when she answered. "How bad?" "Bad. Bill Hendricks has been embezzling for at least 3 years, maybe longer. He's using a fake vendor to funnel money out of the facility." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then, "Can you prove it?" "Yeah. I've got bank statements, invoices, transfers. It's all here." "Send it to me." Logan hesitated. "What are you going to do?" "Oh, what needs to be done?" Elena's voice was calm, steady. "But first, I need you to do something." "What?" "Confront him." Logan blinked. "You want me to confront Bill? Now?" "Yes, today. In front of the workers." "Why?" "Because if we fire him quietly,
The workers will never know why. They'll think it's just more corporate nonsense. But if you expose him, if you show them what he's been doing, it sends a message that things are changing, that people will be held accountable. Logan's throat was dry. And if he doesn't go quietly, then we call the police. Elena paused. Can you do this, Logan? Logan thought about Ava, about the eviction notice, about every time he'd been knocked down and had to get back up. Yeah, he said. I can do this. Good. I'll have security standing by, just in case. Say, I was about to make Come on. Logan called another meeting. This time he didn't ask Bill's permission. He just walked onto the floor during the afternoon shift and told everyone to stop working. Bill came storming over, his face purple. What the hell do you think you're doing? Calling a meeting, Logan said calmly. You can't just, I can, and I am. Logan turned to the workers. Everyone, listen up. This'll only take a few minutes. Bill grabbed Logan's arm. You're done, Reed. I'm calling corporate right now. Yes. Logan looked down at Bill's hand, then back up at his face. Go ahead, call her. I'll wait. Bill's grip loosened. Logan pulled his arm free and stepped onto the pallets again. The workers were gathering now, curious, wary. 4 days ago, Logan said, his voice carrying across the warehouse, I came here because this facility was failing, and I was told it was because the workers weren't doing their jobs. But that's not true. You've been doing your jobs. You've been doing them in spite of broken equipment, bad management, and a system designed to fail. People were listening now, really listening. And the reason this facility's been failing, Logan continued, is because someone's been stealing from it for years. A murmur went through the crowd. Bill's face went pale. You don't know what you're talking about. Logan pulled out a folder and held it up. This is a record of every payment made to a company called Apex Industrial Supply over the last 3 years. 260 payments, totaling $473,000. The murmur grew louder. The problem, Logan said, is that Apex Industrial Supply doesn't exist. It's a shell company, and the money didn't go to equipment or supplies. It went into a personal bank account. Bill was shaking now. That's a lie. Logan looked right at him. The account belongs to you, Bill. The warehouse went dead silent. Bill's mouth opened and closed. You can't prove that. Logan pulled out another sheet of paper. Bank statements, your name, your account number. He held it up for everyone to see. You've been embezzling from this company, from these people, and you used your nephew to cover it up. Someone in the crowd swore. Others started shouting. Bill backed up, his hands raised. This is insane. You're making this up. I'm not. Logan stepped down from the pallets and walked toward Bill. And you know it. Bill looked around wildly, like he was searching for an escape. Then he lunged at Logan. Logan saw it coming. He sidestepped, and Bill stumbled past him, crashing into a stack of crates. 2 security guards, sent by Elena, appeared from the back of the warehouse and grabbed Bill by the arms. Get off me! Bill shouted, struggling. You can't do this! Logan watched as they dragged him toward the exit. Then he turned back to the workers. This place isn't broken because of you, he said quietly. It's broken because people like Bill were allowed to get away with it. But that ends now. The room was silent. Then Marcus started clapping. One by one, the others joined in. Logan stood there, his heart pounding, as the applause echoed through the warehouse. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. The applause faded, but the silence that followed was different from before. Logan stood in the middle of the warehouse floor, watching the workers disperse back to their stations. Some of them nodded at him as they passed. Others just stared like they weren't sure what had just happened, like they were waiting for the other shoe to drop. Karen walked over, her arms crossed. Hell of a show. Logan exhaled slowly. His hands were shaking. Yeah. You okay? Ask me later. Yeah. She studied him for a moment, then glanced toward the exit where the security guards had dragged Bill out. What happens now? I don't know, Logan admitted. Elena's handling it from here. And Danny? Logan's jaw tightened. He's next. Karen nodded. Good, because if you let him walk, everything you just did means nothing. She was right. Logan knew it. Bill was the head of the snake, but Danny had been his hands. And if Danny stayed, the rot would just start growing back. Logan pulled out his phone and checked the time. 3:47 p.m. He had messages from Elena, 3 of them, but he didn't have the energy to read them yet. "Where's Danny now?" Logan asked. Karen shrugged. "Probably hiding. He took off the second you started talking." "Find him." "You sure you want to do this today?" Logan looked at her. "If I wait, he runs. So yeah, today." Karen sighed. "All right, give me 10 minutes." She walked off, pulling out her radio. Logan stood there alone, surrounded by the hum of machinery and the low murmur of workers getting back to their routines. He felt like he'd just run a marathon. His shoulder was aching again, the one he'd bruised on the bridge, and his head was pounding. But he couldn't stop now. Not yet. Karen found Danny in the parking lot, sitting in his truck with the engine running. Logan walked out into the cold afternoon air, his breath misting in front of him. Danny saw him coming and rolled down the window. "What do you want?" Danny's voice was defensive, edged with panic. Logan stopped a few feet from the truck. "Get out." "Why?" "Because we need to talk." Danny laughed, but it was shaky. "I got nothing to say to you." "Then just listen." Logan stepped closer. "Your uncle's done. He's going to jail. And if you were smart, you'd start talking before the cops show up and ask you the same questions I'm about to." Danny's face went pale. "I didn't do anything." "You covered for him. You manipulated the inventory. You made sure nobody could track what was leaving this facility." Logan leaned against the truck. "That makes you an accomplice." "I was just doing what he told me to do." "That's not a defense." Danny gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. "You don't understand. He's family. I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice," Logan said quietly. "You just made the wrong one." For a long moment, Danny didn't say anything. Then he looked at Logan, his eyes red. "What do you want from me?" "The truth. All of it. Who else was involved? Where the money went, everything." Danny's mouth twisted. "And if I tell you, see, then maybe Elena goes easier on you. Maybe you don't end up in a cell next to your uncle." Logan paused. "But if you run, if you keep lying, I promise you it's going to be worse." Danny stared at the dashboard. His hands were shaking now, too. "There were others," he said finally. "Not a lot, but a few." Logan's stomach sank. "Who?" "A guy in shipping. Tony Marcelli. He helped move stuff off the books. And there's a supervisor on night shift, Linda Ortiz. She signed off on the fake invoices." Logan pulled out his phone and typed the names into his notes. "Anyone else?" Danny hesitated. "There's a guy in corporate. I don't know his name, but Bill used to talk to him on the phone, called him the Fixer." Logan's pulse quickened. "What did this Fixer do?" "I don't know. Bill never told me. But whenever things got tight, whenever someone started asking questions, Bill would call him, and the problem would go away." Logan stared at Danny. "You're telling me there's someone at corporate covering for your uncle?" "I'm telling you what I know." Danny wiped his face. "That's all I got." Logan straightened. "Get out of the truck." "What?" "You're not leaving. Not until the police get here." Danny's eyes widened. "You said—" "I said maybe Elena would go easier on you. I didn't say you were walking away." Logan pulled open the truck door. "Now get out." We'll try it." Danny sat there for a moment, his jaw working. Then he turned off the engine and climbed out. Logan called Karen on the radio. "I need you out front, and bring security." "Copy that." Danny stood next to his truck. His shoulders slumped. He looked smaller now, younger, like the weight of everything had just hit him all at once. "For what it's worth," Danny said quietly, "I didn't want to do it, any of it." Logan looked at him. "Then you should have said no." Danny laughed bitterly. "Yeah, easy for you to say." Karen arrived with the 2 security guards. They took Danny without a fight, leading him back inside to wait for the police. Logan watched them go, then pulled out his phone and called Elena. She answered immediately. "Logan, are you all right?" "Yeah, Bill's in custody. Danny's talking, and we've got 2 more names." "Who?" Logan read her the names. And there's something else. Danny says there's someone at corporate, someone who's been covering for Bill. Elena was quiet for a moment. Did he give you a name? No, just called him the Fixer. I'll look into it. Elena's voice was tight. In the meantime, I need you to secure the facility. No one in or out without clearance. And I'm sending an audit team first thing tomorrow morning. Okay. Logan? Yeah? You did good today. Better than good. She paused. But this isn't over. If there's someone at corporate involved, things are going to get messy. Logan rubbed his face. I know. Can you handle it? He thought about Ava, about the eviction notice, about everything riding on this. I don't have a choice, he said. Yes, you do. You can walk away right now. I'll make sure you're compensated for your time and you can go home. Mi boy boss. Logan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'm not walking away. Elena exhaled. All right, then let's finish this. But the rest of the day was a blur. Logan locked down the facility, posted security at every entrance, and spent 2 hours on the phone with Elena's legal team. The police arrived around 6, took statements from Danny and half a dozen workers, and left with boxes of evidence. By the time Logan finally sat down, it was almost 9 p.m. He was back in the cramped office on the second floor, staring at his phone. He'd missed 3 calls from Mrs. Martinez and 2 from Ava's school. His heart lurched. He dialed Mrs. Martinez. She picked up on the first ring. Mr. Reed, thank goodness. I've been trying to reach you. What happened? Is Ava okay? She's fine, but there was an incident at school today. Logan's grip tightened on the phone. What kind of incident? Whoosh. She got into a fight with another student. The school called me to come pick her up. Logan closed his eyes. Is she hurt? No, but she's upset. She won't talk to me. She keeps asking for you. Put her on. There was a rustling sound, then Ava's small voice came through the line. Daddy? Hey, baby, you okay? I'm sorry. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean to. It's okay. Just tell me what happened. Ava sniffled. This boy at school, he said you weren't coming back. He said you left me like Mommy did, and I got mad and I pushed him and, Ava, stop. Logan's throat was tight. I'm not leaving you. I would never leave you, you hear me? But you've been gone so long. I know, sweetheart, but I'm coming home soon, I promise. When? Logan looked at the stacks of paperwork still covering his desk, at the messages piling up on his phone, at the mess he still had to clean up. 2 more days, he said. Just 2 more days, and I'll be home. You promise? I promise. Ava was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby. So much. They stayed on the line for a few more minutes, and Logan talked to her about nothing important, about her favorite cartoons, about what she wanted for dinner when he got home, about the drawing she was making for him. When they finally hung up, Logan sat there in the dark, staring at the wall. He was so tired, not just physically, tired of fighting, tired of scraping by, tired of feeling like every step forward came with 2 steps back. But he couldn't stop. Not now. The audit team arrived the next morning at 7 a.m. sharp. There were 4 of them, 2 accountants, a forensic analyst, and a legal advisor, all dressed in sharp suits and carrying laptops. They swept through the facility like a surgical team, pulling files, interviewing workers, and reconstructing the financial trail Bill had left behind. Logan stayed out of their way, but he was never far. He wanted to see this through to the end. By noon, they'd confirmed everything Logan had found. The fake vendor, the embezzled funds, the network of people who'd helped cover it up. But they'd also found something else. Logan was in the break room grabbing a cup of bad coffee when one of the accountants, a sharp-eyed woman named Rachel, found him. We need to talk, she said. Logan set down his cup. What is it? There's a pattern in the invoices, approvals that came from someone higher up than Bill. Logan's stomach tightened. How high? Director level. Maybe higher. Rachel pulled out a tablet and showed him a series of emails.
Look at this.
Every time Bill submitted a request for payment to Apex Industrial, it was flagged for review. But instead of being rejected, it was approved by the same person. Every time.
Logan scanned the emails. The name at the bottom made his blood run cold. Gregory Vance, Senior Director of Operations.
You're telling me a senior director signed off on $500,000 in fraudulent payments? Logan asked. Either that or he's incompetent. But given the consistency, I'm betting on the former. Logan handed the tablet back. Does Elena know? I just sent her the report. Logan pulled out his phone. Before he could dial, it rang. Elena, he answered. I just saw it.
So did I. Elena's voice was hard.
Gregory Vance has been with Crosstech for 8 years. He's got a spotless record. Awards, promotions. He's one of the highest-ranking people in the company.
And he's dirty. It looks that way. Logan paced the break room. What do we do? We bring him down. Elena paused. But we need to be smart about this. If we go after him directly,
he'll bury the evidence and throw Bill under the bus. We need leverage. What kind of leverage? The kind that makes him talk before we take him down. Elena's tone shifted. I need you to do something for me. What? I'm flying out to Creston tonight. I want you to set up a meeting with the workers. All of them. Tomorrow morning.
Logan frowned. Why?
Because I want them to hear the truth. From me. And I want Gregory Vance to know that if he tries to cover this up, he's not just dealing with me. He's dealing with every single person whose livelihood he put at risk.
Logan felt a flicker of something in his chest. Hope, maybe? Or just respect for the fact that Elena wasn't hiding behind lawyers and PR teams. I'll set it up, he said.
Good. I'll see you tomorrow. That night, Logan couldn't sleep. He lay in the narrow bed in the motel room Elena's assistant had booked for him. Single mattress, thin blanket, the sound of trucks rumbling past on the highway outside, and stared at the ceiling. His mind kept circling back to the same thought. What if this didn't work? What if Gregory Vance had enough power to bury the whole thing? What if the workers didn't trust Elena? What if Logan had just made everything worse? He thought about Ava, about the promise he'd made her, about the life he was trying to build. And he thought about the moment on the bridge, about the choice he'd made to save a stranger instead of saving himself. Maybe that's what this whole thing was. Another version of the same choice. Risk everything for something bigger than himself, or play it safe and lose anyway. Logan closed his eyes. He'd already made his choice. Bus. Elena arrived at the facility the next morning in a black SUV with tinted windows. Logan was waiting outside when she stepped out. She looked different than she had on the bridge. Sharper, more composed, dressed in a tailored blazer and slacks. But her eyes were the same, focused, unflinching. Mr. Reed, she said, extending her hand. Logan shook it. Miss Cross. Are we ready? Yeah, everyone's inside. Elena nodded and followed him into the building. The warehouse floor had been cleared. Workers stood in a loose crowd, maybe 60 of them, watching as Elena walked to the center of the room. Logan stood off to the side, letting her take the lead. Elena didn't climb onto the pallets. She just stood there, meeting their eyes. My name is Elena Cross, she said. Most of you probably know that, but what you might not know is why I'm here. The room was silent. A week ago, Elena continued, I sent Logan Reed to this facility because the numbers didn't make sense. Revenue was down. Morale was low. And nobody could tell me why. She paused. What I didn't know was that the problem wasn't performance. It was theft. A murmur went through the crowd. Bill Hendricks embezzled nearly $500,000 from this company over the last 3 years. He used fake vendors, manipulated inventory, and exploited people who trusted him. Elena's voice was steady, but there was an edge to it. And he didn't do it alone. She pulled out a folder and held it up. There are people at corporate who enabled this. Who signed off on fraudulent payments, who looked the other way while Bill stole from you. The murmur grew louder. But here's what I want you to know, Elena said. I'm not here to cover this up. I'm not here to protect the people who let this happen. I'm here to make it right. She looked around the room, her gaze sweeping over every face. Starting today, this facility is under new management. Bill Hendricks is gone. His accomplices are gone. And anyone at corporate who was involved will be held accountable. Someone in the back shouted, "How do we know you're telling the truth? Get worse or CFC."
Elena didn't flinch. Because if I wanted to lie to you, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd send a lawyer with a press release and hope you forgot about it. She paused.
But I don't want you to forget. I want you to remember that this company failed you, and I want you to hold me accountable for fixing it. The room was quiet now. Elena gestured to Logan. Logan Reed exposed this. He didn't have to. He could have written a report, cashed a paycheck, and walked away. But he didn't. He stayed. He fought. And because of him, we're standing here today. Logan's throat tightened. So here's what happens next, Elena said. We rebuild. We replace the broken equipment. We hire the people we need. We fix the systems that failed, and we make sure this never happens again. She looked at Karen, then at Marcus, then at Paul.
But I can't do it without you, Elena said. I need you to trust me, not because I'm asking nicely, but because I'm going to prove it. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Marcus stepped forward. What do you need from us?
Elena smiled faintly. Your honesty, your effort, and a little patience while we clean up the mess. Marcus nodded. You got it.
One by one, the others started nodding too. Elena turned to Logan. Anything you want to add? Bullshit. Logan stepped forward, his hands in his pockets.
Yeah, just one thing. The workers looked at him. I know you don't have a reason to trust corporate, or me, but I'm asking you to give us a shot.
Logan paused. Because this place? It's worth saving, and so are the people in it. Karen started clapping. This time, the whole room joined in.
After the meeting, Elena pulled Logan aside. They walked out to the loading dock where the air was cold and quiet. Elena leaned against the railing, looking out at the empty lot. You're good at this, she said. Logan shrugged. I just told the truth. Most people can't do that. Elena glanced at him, especially when it costs them something. Logan didn't respond. I meant what I said in there, Elena continued. You didn't have to stay. You could have walked away after you found the evidence, but you didn't. I had to finish it. Why? Logan thought about Ava, about the eviction notice, about the choices that had led him here. Because if I didn't, he said quietly, I wouldn't be able to look my daughter in the eye.
Elena nodded slowly. She's lucky to have you. Yeah, well, I'm just trying not to screw it up.
Elena smiled. You're doing fine. They stood there in silence for a moment. Then Elena said, I'm offering you the job. Logan looked at her. What? Operations director. $65,000 a year. Benefits. Security. She met his eyes. You earned it. Logan's heart was pounding. What about the interview? You've been interviewing all week, and you passed. So Elena pushed off the railing. So what do you say? Logan stared at her. Then he looked out at the facility, the cracked pavement, the faded sign, the workers inside who were just starting to believe things could get better. He thought about Ava, about the promise he'd made her. Yeah, Logan said. I'm in. Elena smiled. Good, because we've got a lot of work to do. Logan drove home that night with the windows down, even though the air was cold enough to sting. He needed to feel something real, something that reminded him he wasn't dreaming. The job was his. $65,000 a year. Benefits. A future. But more than that, he'd done something that mattered. He'd walked into a broken place and helped put it back together. Not perfectly. Not completely. But enough that people could start to believe again. The highway stretched out in front of him, dark and empty. Logan's phone sat in the cup holder, silent for once. He'd called Ava an hour ago, told her he was coming home tomorrow. She'd cried. Happy tears this time. He thought about the bridge, about the choice he'd made in the rain, about how one moment had led to all of this. Sometimes life doesn't give you good options. Sometimes it just gives you hard ones. And the only thing that matters is what you do when the choice is in front of you. Logan had spent so long playing it safe, trying to hold on to what little he had, that he'd forgotten what it felt like to take a risk that actually meant something. Now he knew. Bice. The corporate office was nothing like the Creston facility. Logan stepped off the elevator into a world of glass and steel, polished floors, and modern furniture, where people in expensive suits moved with the kind of confidence that came from never having to worry about broken conveyor belts or unpaid bills. Elena's assistant, Diane, met him in the lobby. She was younger than Logan expected, maybe mid-20s, with sharp eyes and a tablet tucked under her arm. "Mr. Reed," she said, extending her hand, "good to finally meet you in person." Logan shook it. "You too. Ms. Cross is waiting for you. Conference room B, third door on the left." Logan followed her down a hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. He caught a glimpse of his reflection in the glass. Jeans, boots, a button-down shirt he'd bought at a discount store on the way here. He looked out of place. He didn't care. Diane stopped outside a conference room and opened the door. Inside, Elena sat at the head of a long table, flanked by two people Logan didn't recognize. A man in his 50s with silver hair and a woman in a pantsuit who looked like she ate weak arguments for breakfast. And at the far end of the table, looking smaller than Logan would have expected, was Gregory Vance. He was tall, well-dressed, with the kind of face that probably smiled easily in boardrooms and charity galas. But right now, he wasn't smiling. He looked like a man who'd just realized the walls were closing in. Elena stood when Logan walked in. "Mr. Reed, thank you for coming." Logan nodded and took a seat across from Vance. Elena gestured to the others. "This is Jonathan Cross, our lead legal counsel, and Rebecca Hart, head of internal investigations." Jonathan nodded curtly. Rebecca didn't acknowledge Logan at all. Her eyes were fixed on Vance. "Let's get started," Elena said, sitting back down. She slid a folder across the table to Vance. "We've reviewed the audit findings. Over the last 3 years, you approved 260 payments to Apex Industrial Supply, a company that doesn't exist." Vance didn't touch the folder. "I approved hundreds of invoices. I can't be expected to verify every single one. You approved the same fake vendor, repeatedly, for 3 years. Elena's voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Either you're incompetent or you're complicit. Which is it?" Vance's jaw tightened. "I was doing my job. Bill Hendricks was the site manager. If he submitted fraudulent invoices, that's on him. Bossitin. Except it's not," Rebecca said, speaking for the first time. She opened her own folder and pulled out a sheet of paper. "We have emails between you and Bill, discussing payment schedules, discussing how to keep the audits from flagging the invoices." Vance's face went pale. Rebecca slid the paper across the table. "You want to keep pretending you didn't know?" Vance stared at the email. His hands were shaking. "Here's what's going to happen," Elena said. "You're going to resign, effective immediately. You're going to cooperate fully with the investigation. And in exchange, we won't press criminal charges." Vance looked up sharply. "You can't do that." "I can," Elena said. "And I will, unless you give me a reason not to." "What reason?" "The truth." Elena leaned forward. "Who else was involved? Who at corporate knew about this?" Vance was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed bitterly. "You think I'm the only one? You think this just stops with me?" "I know it doesn't," Elena said. "That's why I'm asking." Vance looked at Logan, then back at Elena. "If I talk, I'm a dead man." "If you don't talk," Jonathan said, "you're a convicted man. Your choice." Vance rubbed his face. Then he said, "There's a VP in procurement, Michael Driscoll. He's been running the same scheme at 3 other facilities. Bill was just one piece of it." Rebecca was already typing on her tablet. "Anyone else?" Vance hesitated. "A controller, Linda Yu. She's been covering the transfers." Elena's expression didn't change, but Logan saw her fingers tighten on the edge of the table. "How high does this go?" "I don't know," Vance said. "I only dealt with Driscoll, but if I had to guess, higher than you want to believe." Elena stood. "Mr. Vance, you're done here. Security will escort you out. If you try to contact anyone at this company, if you try to interfere with this investigation in any way, I will make sure you spend the next 10 years in prison. Do you understand?" Vance nodded slowly.
Elena gestured to the door and two security guards stepped inside. They led Vance out without another word. When the door closed, Elena sat back down and exhaled slowly. "How bad is this?" Logan asked. "Bad," Rebecca said. "If Vance is telling the truth, we're looking at a systemic fraud operation. Multiple facilities. Millions of dollars." Jonathan leaned back in his chair. "This is going to get ugly. The board's going to want answers. The press is going to have a field day." Elena looked at Logan. "What do you think?" Logan frowned. "You're asking me? You're the one who uncovered it. You've seen the facility. You've talked to the workers. So yes, I'm asking you." Logan thought about it. About the people in Creston. About Marcus and Karen and Paul. About the way they looked at him when he told them the truth. "I think," Logan said slowly, "that if you try to bury this, you lose them. The workers. The people who actually make this company run. They've been lied to for years. And if you lie to them again, even to protect the company's image, they'll never trust you." Elena nodded. "So what do we do?" "You tell the truth, all of it. You clean house, and you show them that you're willing to burn it all down to make it right." Rebecca raised an eyebrow. "That's a hell of a risk." "Yeah," Logan said, "but it's the only one that matters." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she looked at Jonathan. "Draft a statement. Full disclosure. Names, amounts, everything. I want it ready by tomorrow." Jonathan blinked. "Elena, the board's going to lose their minds." "Then they can lose them. But I'm not covering this up." She stood. "If this company's going to survive, it needs to be built on something real, not PR spin." Rebecca and Jonathan exchanged looks. Then Jonathan nodded. "All right, I'll get started." Elena turned to Logan. "Walk with me." They walked out of the conference room and down the hallway toward Elena's office. It was quieter here, away from the meeting rooms and cubicles. "You didn't have to back me up in there," Elena said. Logan shrugged. "I just said what I thought." "Most people wouldn't." Elena stopped at a window overlooking the city. "They'd tell me what I wanted to hear, or what they thought would keep them safe." "I'm not most people." Elena smiled faintly. "No, you're not." They stood there in silence for a moment, watching the skyline. "I meant what I said," Elena continued, "about rebuilding. It's not just about fixing the systems or replacing the equipment. It's about changing the culture, making sure people feel like they matter." Logan nodded. "That's going to take time." "I know." Elena looked at him. "That's why I want you to lead it." Logan frowned. "Lead what?" "The rebuild. Not just at Creston, at every facility." Elena turned to face him fully. "I'm creating a new position, Director of Operational Integrity. Your job would be to go into facilities, assess what's broken, and fix it. Not just the numbers, the people." Logan stared at her. "You're serious?" "Completely." "That's..." Logan stopped, trying to process it. "That's a lot bigger than what we talked about." "I know. And it comes with a bigger salary. 85,000 plus a team, plus the authority to make real changes." Logan's head was spinning. "Why me?" Logan's head is set. "Because you don't care about looking good. You care about doing good, and that's what this company needs." Elena paused. "So what do you say?" Logan thought about Ava, about the apartment with the eviction notice, about the life he'd been trying to build. This was more than he'd ever imagined. "Can I think about it?" he asked. "Of course. Take a few days. Talk to your daughter." "But Logan?" "Yeah?" "Don't overthink it. You've already proven you can do this." Elena smiled. "Now you just have to decide if you want to." Baton. Logan drove home in a daze. He barely remembered the trip, just the blur of highway lights and the hum of the engine. His mind kept circling back to Elena's offer. 85,000. A team. The chance to actually make a difference. It was everything he'd been fighting for, but it was also terrifying. When he pulled up to the apartment complex, it was almost midnight. The building looked the same as always. Faded brick, flickering streetlights, the faint smell of garbage from the dumpsters around back. But the eviction notice was gone.
Logan stared at the door for a long moment. Then he unlocked it and stepped inside. Ava was asleep on the couch, curled up under a blanket with her coloring book on the floor beside her. Mrs. Martinez was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea.
She wouldn't go to bed, Mrs. Martinez said quietly. Wanted to wait up for you. Logan walked over and knelt next to the couch. He brushed Ava's hair out of her face, and she stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Daddy? Hey, sweetheart, I'm home.
Ava sat up and threw her arms around his neck. Logan held her tight, his eyes burning.
I missed you, she whispered. I missed you too, baby. They stayed like that for a long time.
The next morning, Logan woke up to the smell of pancakes. He stumbled into the kitchen to find Ava standing on a chair in front of the stove, flipping a pancake with intense concentration. Mrs.
Martinez was supervising from the side, looking both amused and slightly concerned.
What's all this? Logan asked.
Ava beamed. I'm making breakfast. For you.
Logan's throat tightened.
You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. You always make breakfast for me.
Logan walked over and helped her flip the pancake. It was lopsided and a little burnt, but it was perfect. They ate together at the kitchen table, just the two of them, since Mrs. Martinez had to leave for work. Ava talked non-stop about school, about the drawing she'd made, about the new girl in her class who had a pet hamster. Logan listened to every word. When they finished, Ava looked at him with big, serious eyes. Daddy, did you get the job? Logan nodded. Yeah, I got it. Dios. Ew. Ava's face lit up. Does that mean we don't have to move? It means, Logan said, that we're going to be okay. Ava hugged him so hard he almost couldn't breathe. Logan spent the weekend thinking. He took Ava to the park. He fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom. He did all the normal, mundane things he'd been too stressed to appreciate before, and he thought about Elena's offer. On Sunday night, after Ava went to bed, Logan sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a piece of paper. He wrote down everything he was afraid of, everything that could go wrong. Then he wrote down everything he wanted, for himself, for Ava. When he was done, he stared at the two lists. The fear list was longer, but the want list was stronger. Logan pulled out his phone and called Elena. She answered on the second ring. Mr. Reed,
have you made a decision? Yeah, Logan said. I'm in. Good. Elena sounded pleased. When can you start? Give me 2 weeks. I need to get Ava settled. Find a better place for us to live. Make sure she's okay.
Take 3 if you need it. Thanks. There was a pause. Then Elena said, You're doing the right thing, Logan. I hope so. I know so. 3 weeks later, Logan stood in the lobby of Crosstech headquarters wearing a suit that actually fit. It wasn't borrowed. It wasn't too short or too tight. It was his. Diane met him at the elevator. Ready for your first day? Logan nodded. Yeah, let's do this. The elevator ride up felt different this time. Not like he was sneaking into a world that didn't belong to him. Like he'd earned his place here. When the doors opened, Elena was waiting. Welcome back, she said. Logan smiled. Good to be back. She led him down the hallway to a corner office. His office, with windows overlooking the city and a desk that didn't wobble. This is yours, Elena said. Your team starts tomorrow, and your first assignment is ready. Logan walked to the window and looked out at the skyline. Where am I going? Baltimore, another facility. Same problems as Creston. Maybe worse. Logan turned to face her. And you think I can fix it? I know you can. Elena handed him a folder. Because you've already done it once. Logan opened the folder and scanned the first page. Then he closed it and looked at Elena. Let's get to work. Why? 6 months later, Logan sat in a different kind of meeting. Not a boardroom, not a warehouse floor, a classroom. Ava's school was having a career day, and Logan had volunteered to speak. He sat in a tiny chair meant for 7-year-olds, surrounded by kids who were half listening and half drawing on their worksheets. The teacher introduced him. This is Mr. Reed. He works for a big company and helps fix problems. One of the kids raised his hand. Like a superhero? Logan laughed. Not exactly. More like someone who listens to people and tries to make things better. That sounds boring, another kid said. Ava, sitting in the front row, glared at him. It's not boring. My dad saved a whole building full of people. Logan smiled. It's okay, Ava. But she wasn't done. He did. He stopped bad guys from stealing money, and he made sure everyone got treated fair. The other kids looked at Logan with slightly more interest now. Is that true? One of them asked. Logan thought about it. About Bill and Danny and Gregory Vance. About the workers in Creston who just needed someone to believe in them. Yeah, Logan said. I guess it is. The teacher smiled. Can you tell us about it? So Logan did. He told them about the bridge, about the choice he'd made, about how one decision had led to another, and how sometimes the hardest thing to do is also the right thing. He told them about the people he'd met, about Karen and Marcus and Paul, about how they'd taught him that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being scared and doing it anyway. And he told them about Ava, about how everything he did was for her, because that's what mattered. When he finished, the kids clapped. Not the polite, obligatory kind. The real kind. Ava beamed at him from the front row. What fact? That night, Logan tucked Ava into bed in their new apartment. It wasn't huge, just 2 bedrooms in a better neighborhood, with windows that didn't rattle and heat that actually worked. But it was theirs. Daddy? Ava asked as Logan pulled the blanket up to her chin. Yeah, baby? Are you happy? Logan thought about it, about everything that had happened, about the risks he'd taken and the things he'd lost and the things he'd gained. Yeah, he said. I am. I got all... Me too, Ava yawned. I'm glad you didn't give up. Logan kissed her forehead. Me too, sweetheart. He turned off the light and stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her fall asleep. Then he walked to the kitchen and poured himself a cup of coffee. He sat at the table and looked out the window at the city lights. It wasn't perfect. His job was hard. There were still facilities to fix, still people to help, still problems that didn't have easy answers. But he was doing something that mattered, and that was enough. Here's the thing about second chances. They don't usually look like second chances when they happen. They look like disasters, like missed opportunities, like the worst possible timing. Logan's second chance started with a missed interview and a stranger on a bridge. It started with him thinking he'd just thrown away his daughter's future. But sometimes the moments that feel like endings are actually beginnings. Sometimes the choices that feel reckless are the ones that change everything. Because courage isn't about making safe decisions. It's about making hard ones. And integrity isn't about being perfect. It's about doing the right thing even when it costs you something. Logan had spent so long trying to hold on to what little he had that he'd forgotten what it felt like to build something bigger, to take a risk that actually meant something. And when he finally did, when he finally stepped into the storm instead of running from it, he found something he'd been missing for years. He found purpose, not the kind that comes from a paycheck or a title, the kind that comes from knowing you made a difference, that you stood up when it mattered, that you helped people who needed it. That's the lesson, if there is one. Life doesn't give you good options. It gives you hard ones. And the only thing that separates the people who survive from the people who thrive is what they do when the choice is in front of them. Do you play it safe and stay small? Or do you take the risk and become something more? Logan chose to become more. And in the end, that made all the difference. What? Logan still thought about the bridge sometimes, about the rain, about the runaway truck, about the split second when he decided to run instead of stay. He wondered what would have happened if he'd made a different choice, if he'd kept driving, if he'd made it to the interview on time. Would he have gotten the job? Maybe. Probably not. But he wouldn't have met Elena. Wouldn't have gone to Creston. Wouldn't have uncovered the fraud or helped the workers or found the thing he'd been searching for all along. He wouldn't have saved himself. Because that's what it had really been about. Not saving Elena, not even saving the facility, saving himself from a life of just surviving, of playing it safe, of being too scared to hope for something better. Logan had spent years living in fear. Fear of failing, fear of losing what little he had, fear of not being enough for Ava. But on that bridge, in the rain, he'd made a choice that changed everything. He'd chosen to act instead of hesitate, to risk instead of retreat, to be the kind of man his daughter could be proud of. And that choice had given him a life worth living. A year after the bridge, Logan stood in the Creston facility again. The place looked different now. The broken equipment had been replaced. The inventory system actually worked. The workers moved with a purpose that hadn't been there before. Karen walked over, clipboard in hand. We hit our quarterly targets, first time in 4 years. Logan smiled. Told you we could do it. Yeah, well, I'm still not thanking you. Didn't ask you to. Well, Karen smirked. Good, because I wasn't planning on it. She walked off, shouting at someone about a shipment, and Logan stood there watching the floor. Marcus waved from across the warehouse. Paul gave him a nod. Travis, who'd been promoted to shift lead after Danny was fired, shot him a thumbs up. These people didn't need saving anymore. They just needed someone to believe in them, and now they believed in themselves. Logan's phone buzzed, a text from Ava. When are you coming home? Logan smiled and typed back, Soon, baby. I promise. He walked out of the facility into the afternoon sun. The sky was clear, no rain, no storms, just light. Logan got in his car and drove home, not to an apartment with an eviction notice, not to a life of barely scraping by, home to his daughter, home to the life they'd built together, home to the future he'd fought for. And as he drove, he thought about that moment on the bridge one more time, about the choice he'd made, about the risk he'd taken, about the way everything had changed in the space of a heartbeat. Sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that save you. Sometimes the greatest risks lead to the strongest futures. And sometimes when you stop running from the storm and step into it instead, you find out what you're really made of. Logan had found out, and he'd never look back.